There's a whole lot happening in our landscape that isn't noticeable at first glance. A whole world of small creatures are going about their business. We may not see them, but we are dependent on them, whether we realize it or not. Insects, such as bees, are responsible for pollinating the flowers that develop into fruits and vegetables that are an essential part of our diet. Because we would be at a loss for food without them, bees are among the most important insects on the earth. Scientists estimate that 1/3 of the food we eat, that's 1 out of every 3 bites, relies on pollination by birds, butterflies, and insects, but mainly by bees. In fact, globally, there are more honeybees than other types of bees. So we might say that honeybees are the world's most prolific pollinators of food crops. So let's take a closer look at honeybees.
We'd like people to know that our honeybees don't want to sting you because if they sting you, they'll die.
People often confuse bees with the more ornery wasp family if they haven't learned how to recognize the difference between the two. We can distinguish bees from wasps by their appearance. Honeybees are fuzzy, while wasps are smoother with little or no hair. Honeybees tend to be plump, while wasps have a more tapered shape. Bees typically tuck their legs into a hidden position when they fly, but when wasps are in the air, their legs hang down. Bees are gentle in nature. They rarely sting. They feed exclusively on pollen and nectar. Wasps are mainly carnivores. They help humans by eating other insects, but wasps can be aggressive, and they're prepared to sting to get you out of the way when they want a bite of the food you're eating. Many of our favorite fruits and vegetables require pollination. Almonds, avocados, cucumbers, melons, blueberries, cherries, and many, many more. Honeybees can also pollinate clover and alfalfa, which are fed to cattle, so very important to the meat and dairy industries. Because bees help plants reproduce, they provide food for animals, birds, and all living things. But bees are at risk. The honeybee population in the United States, so vital to our environment and our food supply, has declined by more than half over the past 50 years.
Climate change has had a massive impact on bee populations. In 2020 alone, it was estimated that over 40% of honeybees were killed. If a single bee is infected with a pesticide or ingests a pesticide, they can bring it back to their hive and infect the pollen in their hive, which has adverse effects for all of their colony members as well.
Bee colonies have also been disappearing in recent years due to colony collapse disorder. This occurs when a majority of worker bees leave the hive unexpectedly and no longer return with nectar for the queen to feed the babies.
Another major contributor to the deaths of all these bees are invasive species brought by humans.
Increased land use and overdevelopment in some areas is wiping out the natural habitat of bees. A recent study found that air pollution also harms honeybees. Climate change poses all sorts of challenges for living things that call their Earth home, but studies show it could be especially troubling for bees. In order to learn more about these amazing creatures, Mamaroneck High School started the Bee Team.
The bee program started 3 years ago, and it was a thought that I had because I actually had been on an earth expedition to the Amazon, and I thought when I came home this would be a really cool project for us to do in the high school.
Mamaroneck High School is the first school in New York State to raise bees. It's been introducing students to the importance of bees and the art of beekeeping.
I'm Emma Thorpe. I'm in 12th grade, and I've been in the Bee Team since 2017.
Since joining the Bee Team, we've been able to see the roles of our bees very closely.
It is a very unique experience to be in the middle of a swarm of bees and be calmly looking into their homes. The team is always very proud and happy every time that we finish the annual harvest of the honey because it is the payoff for all the hard work we put in throughout the year.
The Mamaroneck High School Bee Team is an interdisciplinary effort involving teachers from the fields of science, engineering, and food preparation. Bees in the hive community lead a very purposeful existence. They're hardworking, task-oriented, and collaborative, with each member dedicated to a specific job. There's one queen, the largest bee. The queen's job is to lay the eggs that will produce all of the new bees. Beekeepers put a large dot on the queen so they can easily identify her. Worker bees are all female. They're not called worker bees for nothing. Their job is to fly around and collect pollen and nectar from flowers. They also build and clean the hive. Drones are the male bees, and their only purpose is to mate with the queen bee. Building the hives and finding the right location for them required a lot of learning and planning.
It is one thing to read an article about bees, but it is a much better thing to work with them and see firsthand how phenomenal biodiversity is.
One of the wonders of these bees is the delicious honey they produce. It's meant to be food for the beehive in the winter, but there's often enough to share with us. Extracting the honey from the honeycomb where it's stored by the bees takes a little patience. Delicious.
So they're uncapping all the wax, all the frames. And then each one of these goes into this machine right here. And essentially it's just like a big centrifuge. So once we load this up with all the frames, we hit the button, it starts spinning, and then all the honey sort of gets pressed out to the outside. And then we just drain it right out into a pail, and that's how we collect our honey.
So how can we help bees? We can take simple steps to create a healthier environment.
To prevent the killing of an entire hive, don't use pesticides, and also to support bee colonies, plant native plants in your garden, such as milkweed.
Most pesticides kill all the insects that come in contact with them, the good ones, like bees, as well as the peskier ones. In fact, pesticides are really harmful for all living things, including people, pets, and wildlife. We can stop using herbicides. Herbicides, or weed killers, can also be deadly for bees. They're absorbed into the nectar of flowering weeds that the honeybees consume. What may seem like an undesirable plant in our yard may in fact be a very nutritious source of food for a bee. Wildflowers such as clover and dandelion may look like weeds to us, but they're important sources of food for bees. They may also bloom early in the spring before other flowers open to attract our honey-producing friends. We can add native plants to our yards, gardens, and pots. These are the plants that originated locally, along with insects and birds that feed on them. These natives provide a unique source of food and shelter for pollinators, like bees. Native plants include favorites such as goldenrod, milkweed, and black-eyed Susan. Bees look for certain color flowers as signs that they offer abundant nectar and pollen. They favor shades of violet, blue, and yellow. They don't see red. Hundreds of our neighbors have made the commitment to maintain healthy yards by eliminating use of pesticides and herbicides in outdoor spaces. These areas are safe, they're beautiful, and they require very little care. Healthy yards create an environment in which we can all thrive. You can go online to take the Healthy Yards Pledge.